Yes, ladies and gentlemen, episode 31 of Pokemon Horizons titled The Song in the Mist just dropped, and we are back with our heroes looking for the next of the 6 heroes Pokemon. However, this Lapras that they're looking for is unlike any Pokemon they've ever met, so let's talk about it. This episode starts with a cold open. A boat carrying cargo is sailing through the ocean when suddenly thick mist appears. The boat shakes violently as they're in an area with a lot of coral, so the crewmates are trying to figure out if they should turn around, when all of a sudden in the mist they hear a Lapras singing and spot its silhouette. They follow it and it guides them out the mist. And as we learn later in this episode, this is something that happens pretty frequently. Ships will be sailing when all of a sudden mist will arrive, making the travel for the ship almost impossible, only to be saved by a shiny Lapras that sings. It's a lovely story. Or is it? As Diana is telling everyone in the group about the story of this Lapras, which could potentially be one of the 6 hero Pokemon, she also talks about how when she was a kid, she tried to find it but wasn't able to and eventually gave up. She didn't have a boat after all. However, this time, with the help of Dot, they've finally been able to track down where a lot of these Lapras sightings have been seen lately. And they also see that another person just told the story of them being saved by a Lapras. So, our heroes, hoping that this is the Pokemon they're looking for, head to the island where the latest sighting was to go talk to the crew members there. It's the crew from the cold open, and they tell Fried, Liko, and Roy what happened. However, he does mention that due to the boat shaking as much as it did, they ended up losing all of their cargo. However, since both the boat and the people were fine, they're happy regardless. Keep that in mind. Our heroes then go down to the water. Remember, the Bravasagi was originally a boat, so you can just ride in the water like a regular boat. Then, it happens. As they're cruising in the water, suddenly, mist arrives out of nowhere. Both Fried and Diana find this a bit strange. They then see the Lapras singing and guiding them, and Fried decides to follow it. Liko's Terapagos tries to call out to the Lapras, however, it's not listening. Roy wonders maybe they should both call out to it, however, before they can, they hear commotion as an Ambipom comes out of nowhere and tries to steal food from Fuecoco. There's also a Toedscruel that's stealing food as well. The Toedscruel even attacks Fuecoco. However, a quick attack by Sprigatito on the two Pokemon make them drop the food they had collected, and then they hop off the ship and disappear. And then afterwards, the mist lifts. Everyone heads back to the meeting room in the ship to discuss what happened. While Molly and Orla think that it's wonderful that the Lapras saved them, both Fried and Diana are a bit suspicious, especially the timing of the mist. Meanwhile, Liko and Roy are upset that Ambipom and Toedscruel attacked their Pokemon and tried to steal their food. But as Fried points out, Ambipom and Toedscruel are forest Pokemon. They don't live in the water. How are they getting to the ship? Dot then shows an image she took of what looks like a Wailord taking those Pokemon away. So with this knowledge, Fried gets an idea. He has Molly and Murdoch put Pokemon food in the outside of the ship, and then he has Ludlow captain the ship and Molly on the engine. He then has the boat turn around and go back, as he knows that he'll probably see Lapras again. Once again, like before, mist appears out of nowhere. However, this time, Fried has Captain Pikachu use Rising Volt Tackle to create a massive twister in the air and get rid of the mist. In doing so, our heroes spot the same Ambipom and Toedscruel from earlier trying to steal the Pokemon food that just got placed in the deck. We also see that the Wailord has a lot of Pokemon on its back that it's carrying around, not just these two. Turns out this whole save boats from the mist thing was a sham by Lapras, because it was Lapras using mist and then allowing the Pokemon to steal the cargo before guiding the ship out. With the mist lifted, we finally get a good look at the Lapras, and we see that it has a scar in its eye and it is massive. And unlike the ones described by Roy in his island, where the Lapras were kind and let humans ride them, this one seems mean and screams at Liko, and that's where the episode ends. I love this twist on a sailor's tale. Most sailor tales that aren't tragic talk about how some sort of animal or mermaid saved them from the ship when it looked like their ship was in danger. However, here, that same type of story gets turned around and we find out that it's Lapras causing the issue and then creating its own solution while also stealing from the ship. And it turns out that unlike other Laprases, this one is seemingly not kind and has a checkered past as it has a scar in its eye. I love this reversal. Doing this type of stuff allows the writers to play with basic story tropes and do something more interesting with them, which I think they did in this episode. Since this episode is most likely a two-parter, there wasn't much else to talk about in this episode. It's really a setup for next episode because it leaves a lot of questions on the table. Why does Lapras have a scar in its eye? Why are there so many land Pokemon in the back of Wailord? And why is the Lapras so angry? I can't wait to learn all that and more as we find out more about this situation. A fine episode here that leads to the next one. But what about you guys? What did you guys think of this episode? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealPDGaming. And that's it. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.